Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing this morning? I had a late start today because I had some people walk in the office that I wasn't expecting. So anyway, welcome to Hearing Rehab. I'm Sandra Ryerson. I do Hearing Rehab once a month, the first Thursday of each month. So thanks for joining. Today's topic is holiday gift ideas for people with hearing loss. So, of course, with, Thanksgiving just wrapping up, Christmas is coming even quicker this year with how the holidays have fallen. We're fast tracking to Christmas already. And, of course, when you're with your family, you may have noticed some of your family members aren't hearing like they should be. They're not participating in conversation. Sometimes they won't say, "What did you say?" or ask for repetition. They'll just remove themselves. Maybe they'll go to a different room and sit by themselves. And that can be misconstrued as not interested or, something else. But in fact, it might just be that they can't hear, so they can't participate. And because that's a bummer, they just remove themselves. Instead of making a big fuss about it and pointing out that they can't hear, they just remove themselves from the situation. So if you're seeing family members doing some of those things, or just asking for repetition or answering the wrong question incorrectly, interjecting something that was already said, it might not be cognitive, it might be hearing loss. That's a good place to start. So definitely make sure that you think about those things during this holiday season. And the gift of hearing is the best gift you can give someone who has hearing loss. So if you're from a big family and you can all contribute, it's always a really, really neat thing when family is able to help a parent or a loved one get hearing aids. But anyway, So there's some other ideas as well, though, for things you can get people with hearing loss. And I wanted to go over those today because those are great gift ideas. Sometimes as we get older, it's harder and harder to buy for people. If someone lives in assisted living, they don't have a lot of space, perhaps to put new things, or they just don't need as much. And so these are some great gift ideas, I think, for people who are hard of hearing and would appreciate these gifts for their hearing health. So, okay, let's get started. Now, simple little gifts you can give are accessories, things that hearing aid users use all the time. Batteries are a great idea. You can buy those at any audiology practice or at any pharmacy. And if they don't use batteries, another great thing to give, and this would be something you have to ask their audiologist because these are not sold in stores, but they're something called wax guards or wax filters or wax protectors. There's lots of different names for them. Different manufacturers have different ones. But what they do is they help protect the hearing aid speaker from earwax going in and plugging up the speaker. And so they prevent that wax ingress into the speaker. And they're not super expensive, but some people go through a lot. And so that's something that some people really value is getting these as gifts. So that's a fun little gift you can give. Also, Miracell is a great drop that we suggest for people who have itchy ears or produce wax. It just helps keep the ear canal healthy. So that's a fun little gift you can give. Also, hearing aid wipes. These are wipes that basically sterilize. They're great for AirPods too. If you have a loved one who's constantly putting their AirPods all over the place, that can cause an external otitis or an infection of the ear canal. And so, alcohol wipes can be really hard on those materials. So these are a really safe solution that are great to use and help keep your ear devices clean. So that's a great one to give. Let's see, what else do we have? When we have hearing aid dryers. So for people who sweat a lot or people who are out in the elements a lot, there can be condensation that builds up inside the hearing aid, especially if they're out in and out of hot and cold conditions. If they sweat a lot, we do now with rechargeable hearing aids have less moisture ingress into the hearing aid, but that's still an issue through the microphone because the microphone has to be available for sound to come in. So that can also let moisture in. So we have a couple different dryer options. This one's a less expensive options, under $20, and it's just a container to store the hearing aids in at night that also has a desiccant pack in it that you can rejuvenate in the microwave. So if you have patients who have disposable hearing aids, if you have hearing aids with disposable batteries, this is a great solution. Now, if you have someone who has rechargeable hearing aids, some manufacturers do make charging case with a dryer built in, some don't. So for those that don't, and we need some kind of moisture control, what I recommend they do is when they get home and they're inside for the evening and they can go a half hour, maybe take a shower or something, they put their hearing aids in a dryer like this. And this is a UV dryer. It's excellent. I think it retails for around $90 to $100. And it runs for about a half hour, I think is all. And then you can put them back in for the evening and then charge them overnight. Good to go. So that's a nice gift as well. A really nice option. All right, and then also, you know, a lot of hearing aid users would benefit from accessories, but they don't purchase them because they feel like the hearing aids were already a big enough purchase and they just can't bring themselves to pay for anything extra. We do often offer a promotion for accessories with the sale of hearing aids because we realize how important they are. So we do that promotion quite a bit throughout the year, but the TV streamer is a great option for a patient. So that's a device that plugs into the television and the sound goes directly to the hearing aids through wireless transmission. So that's a great option for patients. Remote microphone can be helpful for people who really struggle to hear in noise. And I talked about that last month, where you take the microphone and you clip it to someone's shirt or you put it in the middle of the table, and that helps pick up the voices near that microphone, and then the surrounding noise is not as loud as the speech picked up by that microphone, and that really improves speech comprehension in noise. So those are great solutions. TV streamers and remote microphones typically retail from around $200 to $350, so they're a little more expensive, but they can be very, very valuable as an accessory, an extra piece to a hearing aid. The main thing with hearing in noise is that it's very hard to pick out that one person's voice in a sea of voices for a hearing aid. How does the hearing aid know whose voice is the one to pick up? So that remote microphone assists with that, and it's the one way to separate out that person's voice from all the other voices. So it's a really great, and it's great also in the car for people who have pretty severe hearing impairment. We really encourage people, if they're in the car with someone, have the person, you know, in the car with them wearing that remote microphone so they don't have to look at each other, so they can drive safely to their destination and communicate at the same time. You know, iPhones, some of my patients, they have flip phones, and that's all they're going to ever need. They hear fine on their flip phone, but there's a lot of my patients who could benefit from a smartphone, but they just don't want to get into it. But you can get a used iPhone or Android phone to work with all of the devices we work with today. We always provide guidance, and we say these are the these are the phones that are compatible with the hearing aids. So you want to reach out to your loved one's hearing healthcare provider to understand what phones would work well. But by using a phone, it doesn't even have to be an app that they use. If they feel uncomfortable using apps, that's not a big deal. But they can use that Bluetooth streaming to hear on the phone, and it can be a huge improvement in their ability to communicate on the phone using that Bluetooth streaming. So that's something that, you know, if they're struggling to hear on their flip phone and they're just timid about finding a phone, which I get it, it can seem overwhelming to know what phone to get and then getting it set up. That would be a great gift for someone. And you can get used iPhones. I'm not familiar with Android, but I would assume you can get used Android phones as well for under $300. It doesn't have to be a very advanced phone to work for Bluetooth streaming. So it's just important that you check with the hearing healthcare provider to make sure that the phone you pick out is compatible with their hearing aids. Amplified phones for landline, those are a great solution. There are federal and state programs to help people get phones. Most people who are retired qualify for those because of the income requirements for those programs. But amplified phones are also a great option if you want to purchase one of those and not go through a program. Those are available online, and I like Clarity phones, but there's lots of other choices available. Also for TV, maybe both your parents struggle to hear and they have different hearing aids, or maybe one wears hearing aids and one doesn't, but they could both benefit from a sound bar. A sound bar is something that everyone enjoys having with TVs today because TVs are built so thin, their speakers just aren't typically as good a quality as we had with the big box TVs back in the day. So these sound bars, they're fantastic, and they can really assist with speech comprehension with TV, and so that's something to keep in mind as well. It's a good gift idea. iPads, we talked about iPhones and Android phones. Some patients really benefit from just face-to-face communication because of the amount of hearing loss they have. And so an iPad with FaceTime is a great gift as well for patients to use. I've had some patients who started with an iPad and gotten comfortable with that and started to enjoy that, and then they go to a phone as well because just because it's more of a natural progression, bigger to smaller, and less scary for them. So those are some good options for people. Now I'll get into books. Books are a great way to provide someone with hearing impairment a window into other people's lives with hearing loss. Some of us are really happy to openly talk about our hearing loss, and other people are more reserved, but it really does help to learn of other people's stories and how they managed it, how they dealt with it, especially for people who are new to hearing loss and they're just starting to realize they are going to have to do something to treat their hearing loss, or they're on the fence or unsure. Books can be a great way to collect information, of course, and to just learn about other people's stories. So I encourage you, especially if you have someone who is on the fence about treating their hearing loss, and people sometimes will say to me, what can I say to my grandparent or family member to convince them to treat their hearing? You think, and a lot of the reason not to do something about their hearing usually comes from a place of fear, of the unknown, of not knowing what it's going to be like, and just scared for what it could mean for them. And so a book like this, Hear Your Life, is a great book that we encourage. It's full of fantastic stories. The author's name is Melissa Rodriguez, and she's a hearing aid specialist in Texas. She has extensive experience and expertise in hearing healthcare. And her book just reveals so many beautiful stories from all different types of people, different cultures, different life experiences. These stories, they're humble. Sometimes these stories are, kind of a story that starts out with an embarrassing experience that then moves them to be treated, or just different life experiences. And the ability to laugh and say, oh, my reality wasn't the true reality, and this is how I came to terms with that, and this is how I dealt with that, and this is how I was able to finally accept treating my hearing impairment and not being stigmatized by that, or being worried about the stigma behind treating hearing loss. So I really encourage this book. It's a very quick read. I think it's like 150 pages, and it's just short stories of different people's lives. So I really like this one. This is a good one. Okay, so for those who are very science-minded, if you really geek out on science and love to know more about hearing and how the ear works and how our brain works, this is a great book by Nina Kraus. It's called Of Sound Mind. And this book, Nina Kraus is she's a neuroscientist, and she's just a leading researcher in the field of audiology and sound. She's just done some amazing studies over the years that everyone gets excited about. She's well known and well respected, and she is a professor researcher at Northwestern. This book basically dives into the science behind how we hear and how our brain processes sound, how we grow up with our hearing, and how our lived experience influences how our brain hears, and how our brain processes our sonic environment. It's just a really cool, fun book just to give you more understanding of how the brain works with hearing. And it can really help in terms of, so many people they try to communicate about what they're struggling with, and they say it's not volume, it's clarity, and those kinds of things. And just this really helps understand what the treatment behind hearing and how we approach it and why. And I think that can really help in terms of the acceptance of hearing loss, as well as just understanding, the approach behind it. So, it's a complicated process of hearing. It's not simple, and this book makes it more interesting and fun to read about. If you love that kind of thing and you want to know more about it, I highly recommend Of Sound Mind. Let's see. Next one is Soundtrack of Silence, Love, Loss, and a Playlist for Life by Matt Hay. I just finished reading this. I saw Matt Hay speak. His story is really moving and impactful. He signed my book. Matt Hay grew up in the Midwest, just a typical Midwest kid, small town kid, doing all this normal kid stuff. But over time, it started to become noticeable that he wasn't hearing. But back in the day where he grew up, it wasn't something, he was able to cheat his way out of it, so to speak, and to get by without really addressing it in high school. But by the time he got to college, he couldn't get into West Point because he failed the exam. And so that really sent him looking for answers as to what was going on with his hearing, and come to find out he has a condition called neurofibromatosis type 2, or NF2. It's a condition in which there's basically tumors that grow on the brainstem and along the central pathways of the brain, and it can be very devastating for people. It loves the auditory nerve. It loves the auditory nerve, and there's lots of tumors that grow on the auditory nerve. So that was what affected him first. But basically, this book it basically embraces the idea that what makes you think, what would you do if you knew you had limited amount of time to hear? And he grew up in the 80s. He grew up passionate about music, loved music. So for him, a lot of his story is kind of structured around his musical love, his love of Bruce Springsteen and the Eagles and just all these different Elton John and the songs, and he just loved music so much. And so what would you do if you knew you weren't going to be able to hear the way you hear now for the rest of your life? If the clock's ticking, what would you do? How would you live differently? We think about if we knew we were going to die, in a year, what would you do? But what would you do if you knew you wouldn't be able to hear, within a few years? How would you change how you live? So this is a really beautiful book. I know that Channing Tatum, an actor in Hollywood, has purchased his story, the rights to his story, for a movie. So we may see a movie about his life. He's a wonderful speaker. He has worked in different industries in marketing, but he kind of found his way into hearing, the audiology and hearing healthcare sector, not as a provider, but just as someone who works for companies that treat hearing loss. So that's cool. And it's great to have someone like Matt in our realm. And it's just a really fun book. It's a short read. He's a sweet story about his meeting his wife, but NF2 is a very serious condition that can affect your life. I mean, it can technically take your life. And so, but there are lots of improvements coming out, treatments coming out. And so, he's been able to get through his challenges, and it talks about how he gets through those challenges, and the special people in his life and how they supported him. And it's just a really neat, inspiring story. So I encourage you to look into this book. He currently has a cochlear implant. So that is how he hears now, is through a cochlear implant. He's done a lot of auditory rehab as well to help really comprehend speech. So that's how he's able to communicate, and he does talks. You may be able to find one of his talks online. He's a very, very engaging speaker. So that was fun to meet him and listen to him speak. Last up, I have this book, and I'm just starting on this book called Hear and Beyond, Live Skillfully with Hearing Loss. Sherry Eberts and Gail Hannon are the authors. These two authors have done a lot of, I've read a lot of their articles over the years regarding their experience with hearing, their tales of treating their hearing loss throughout the years, because they've both had hearing loss all of their adult life. So they've been through it over the years with the different technologies that we've been able to use to treat hearing loss, and just things they've learned, lessons they've learned, things that have helped them, stories that are, really heartfelt and moving about, embarrassment, and even in high school, some embarrassment that was felt with their hearing loss, and just how that's shaped them and helped them accept their hearing loss and move forward. So, and then just some tips and tricks. I thought about even doing a class with this book with patients and covering like a couple chapters a week. So that's maybe something I'll look into next year. So I'm enjoying this book, and I think this would be a great book if you have someone who's, you know, hearing and you know, if they're putting in some work already with their hearing, they might appreciate this book. They would learn some things from it. So this would be a good one as well. So yeah, some fun options. For you know, winter coming up, it's always nice to have a good read nearby since we're stuck inside. It's dark out at 5 o'clock. So those are some tips for me, some gift ideas. Just to remember also, it's very important during the holiday season that we remember to change how we communicate in order for those with hearing loss to effectively hear us. I was just saying yesterday to a patient that if someone can't speak walking away, you know, you can't walk away while talking to someone with hearing loss. You can't talk from the next room and expect them to hear. You do have to change the way you communicate. You can't expect someone with a cochlear implant to hear you talking in a soft voice. That's just not acceptable. You have to change. Think if that person had vision impairment, you would change things that you did in the way, maybe even arrange your house to make that person be able to successfully integrate into your life. So the same needs to be true for hearing. We need to make changes to how we communicate. And it takes practice, and it takes time and understanding and the humility to know that you could be in the same boat someday. So we need to be respectful. And if we value that person in our life, we can make a few changes to how we communicate to better serve them. And of course, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to speed up and get excited and then have to go, oh, I'm sorry. Let me slow down so I can say that again. Or we may catch ourselves trying to communicate from the next room and going, silly me. Of course you can't hear me a room away. So those are things to remember and keep in mind during this holiday season. We do have I'm going to try and post with this video, we have a document with communication tips for work, you know, communicating with the hearing impaired. So I'll try to post that with this post. I'll tag it below or something. I'm sure I can figure that out. Okay. We do have our holiday party coming up on Monday the 9th, Hearing Carol, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We have at our new location here at 408 West 8th Street. We've got lots of room. Last year we were packed into our office, so it's going to be fun this year to have a bigger office to really host everyone. We will have lots of heavy appetizers, and we'll have beverages. We'll have cider and some wine. I know it's middle of the day, but you know, we can have a little bit of wine if you're going to go home and take a nap. Why not? I won't be having wine, but you can certainly have a glass if you want. But we'll have other things as well for beverages. And then we're going to have some gift basket giveaways that you can put your name in for. We have 3 really fun, creative ones that came from stores in the community that Julie put together for us. And then we have more of a hearing-related gift bag with different hearing care products, like some of the things I showed you here as well. So that we'll do a drawing for that. So that will be fun. So I encourage you to come. Monday, Hearing Carol, Monday the 9th, 11 to 1. And then the 10th, Tuesday in Denison, Tuesday the 10th, 11:30 to 1. So we hope you can stop by one of those places, either Monday or Tuesday, and say hi and Merry Christmas and enjoy some snacks and some treats from us. So anyway, that's all I have for you. The next hearing rehab would be, I don't have it scheduled, see. That would be, okay, the next hearing rehab is January 2nd, I think. We will post for sure because of holiday stuff. I'll make sure that I can do that. I don't know what the theme will be. If you have any ideas of things you'd like me to talk about, let me know. Otherwise have a wonderful holiday, and I'll see you next year, or I'll see you next week for our holiday parties. Have a great day. Bye-bye.